Hello viewers, my name is Adam.
And I'm here.
This is Seeking Me Productions to bring you a TV season review.
I am so happy to be able to live in a time where a lot of the things that I actually absolutely love and adore is finally being adapted, either for the big screen or, in this particular case, the small screens. In this case, Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles, but on AMC for this particular rendition is the Vampire Lestat. I am absolutely overjoyed to be able to experience it and to be having to experience it being taken care of with a lot of love and appreciation, with the same gravitas that a lot of the fans of Anne Rice's books absolutely adore.
We are close to 2,000 subscribers at this moment.
Let's push it to 4,000. Let's keep it going. 10, 20, I don't care. Let's go.
The Vampire Lestat is technically the third season of AMC's Anne Rice's Interview with Vampire.
But it seems like, at least for this particular adaptation, AMC is committed to doing some justice to the books, in the sense that each season that tackles a different book, they're going to use the title of that book going forward.
But for the most part, no matter how they rebrand it, it's still a continuation of the story. Mind you, with the Vampire Lestat, it kind of acts like somewhat of a reboot in a way.
Yeah, it's primarily changing the way that it's telling the story, because in this particular adaptation, this is really dealing with Lestat's origins and his feelings on certain things. This is not Louis' story, so Louis is not really necessarily the main draw here. This is really dealing with Lestat de Lancourt and his origin and his edifice of being who he is.
Some of the material in the second book of Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles was covered in Queen of the Damned film, which, even though it's primarily adapts material from that third book, it did address certain things that would happen, like Lestat's origins, but still twisted in a very condensed way that now, as a series, in the season television, explores much more, covers a little bit more of what was covered.
Again, this season, the Vampire Lestat is literally focused on the titular character and how he is now reinventing himself, in the sense of him becoming a rock star, and his and this whole endeavor really is an attempt to really define his relationship with the vampire Louis de Pontelac. And the book that came out that was all around Louis' point of view and his life story, basically figuring out where he stands on a lot of things that he himself had a lot of hands-on tasks with, and his thoughts, his feelings with the individuals that have within his life.
Now, this season of television is based off of how much the material is adapted from the Vampire Lestat. The framing of how the story is told, as well as what is expanded upon and what's original that they decided to do to help flesh out more of what was from the book and to service for television.
And of course, this being an adaptation, they do take their own liberties on certain aspects that happen within the story that they uniquely change for this go around to hype up action or to give unique twists and turns that book readers wouldn't necessarily recognize. That way it keeps it fresh for everybody. But whether or not every twist or every particular avenue they go down that's completely different from books is, welcomed, remains to be seen.
Now, I wanted to address the tone and style of how they approach Vampire Lestat. As far as tone, it's very chaotic and energetic,
which matches the energy of the character. Lestat is very much an individual who is of the moment and definitely likes to take, poke holes and makes fun of different things that goes down as he reveals the story.
This is a very departure from the first two seasons, where it was very much Louis' perspective. He's more reserved, I would say more elegant in how he presents himself, and a little bit more somewhat different from at least the structure of how the story is told. This season is told primarily in the present day, with only sequences of flashbacks during different time periods, as opposed to and compared to seasons 1 and 2, where it was mostly a period piece for those first 2 seasons, with only occasionally going to the present day during the actual interview process.
Yeah, I actually did enjoy it, especially when they frame it in the sense that this is not necessarily a book, an interview to be turned into a book. This is an interview that's done very much in the same scheme as a tour, behind the scenes look of the actors, or in this case the bandmates. It's a video tour interview, and that's cool. Especially, again, Lestat is in that element.
The season has 7 episodes. Discuss a lot about how modern television has been condensing mostly serialized dramas in the premium space, condensing their serialized stories to more long films at this point. They have to wait until the season's end or a few months after, where they can renew and continue the story.
I don't know how well that necessarily works in the long run, considering that, again, the whole reason behind telling the story in a television sense or serialized sense is that you are able to take the longer stretch to tell more of the story as it develops.
Which becomes sad, because this season, despite the fact that it decides to style itself as the Vampire Lestat, the second book in Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles, it adapts mainly around 80% of that book. And it not spoiling too much unless you are aware of what happens in the third book or what happens at the very end of the second book. It is at the end of the day, it feels more like it's introducing elements as more like a prologue of the story, or the Act 1, as opposed to a standalone installment. So, characters, starting with the Vampire Lestat, played by Sam Reid.
He remains, till this day, my favorite adaptation, or my favorite portrayal of the Brad Prince. He absolutely kills it almost 100% of the time, or at least in this case, I would say 98% of the time. He's very fierce, he's very driven, he's loving, he's compassionate, he's vengeful, he's an explosion of emotions that is almost always a joy to behold. I feel as though Sam really understands the character and truly gives heart to a monster that at the end of the day you would fear. But I feel as though when it comes to Lestat, it's not so much you fear him, you fear for him, and you fear the concepts that he grapples with, and you just love to see how well he takes it. His delivery for Lestat's music, which is a core element to the character, is just incredible to see.
Yeah, Sam Reid, he definitely presents a tour de force performance, very well-rounded, to the point that it is unfortunate how a lot of award circuits continues to downplay genre storytelling.
Because this is just...
They're missing out on some very revolutionary acting performances. You definitely feel the traumatic weight that Lestat carries throughout his many centuries of living, and how the series is framed with his very schizophrenic personality, mindset, and this does carries on the unreliable narrator that Interview with Vampire brilliantly portrayed in those first 2 seasons. It definitely is showcased here as well. But there's an even more sense of tragedy,
and that swings forward into the portrayal of Louis de Pont-de-Lac, brilliantly portrayed by Jacob Anderson. Again, and I'm really going to say this one, probably for almost all the characters on this show, just slams it. However, I feel as though in this particular season, some of the things they ask of the actor and the situations they put Louis through, especially with the concept or the knowledge of knowing that they of race bending or race changing this character, I question specifically exactly why they feel as though it was necessary to take him in those avenues. Again, Jacob Anderson handles it with incredible class.
You wouldn't know that there's not much of a difference in his performance from the previous 2 seasons, but there is a disconnect in the sense that because the framing isn't from his perspective, he is very much a supporting character.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of weird that if you look at the credits of the show, many of the writers that did lead that wasn't part of this season of television is kind of like noticeable as far as nuance is concerned. Maybe it surfaced better. Like I can understand that how this it surfaced better for Sam Reed's Vampire Lestat's character, but it did do a little bit disservice on other characters, including Louis.
Daniel Malloy. Still hard hitting. I feel as though with Daniel, it really is a situation where you are literally seeing a new character in a certain sense compared to what his adaptation was from the books. I love what they got. I love the circumstances that we're dealing with, especially with his relationship with the characters of Louis or Lestat in this case. I feel as though this particular season, I feel he definitely met his match in a lot of sense.
And it's mainly due to his interactions with the character of Armand. For me personally, Armand is now getting up there to some of the most hated villain characters in TV media. And it's due to the outstanding performance from the actor.
Yeah, Assad, again, I had my reservations for whether or not he was going to actually be able to truly bring it with the character. But again, I feel as though with this adaptation, I definitely see the elements of the gremlin in his portrayal. He is very much a vindictive individual that plays a lot of mind games, and he's to the extent it's like Saul. There's also a quiet yearning and vulnerability that he also brings to it that I feel is definitely interesting to see in this portrayal of this ancient vampire. Definitely a character you love to hate. But I feel as though because of the twists they do with Daniel's character, I don't know if it works all the way, because there is a lot of history that I feel as though is now there are butterfly effects that have rippled across that is definitely we're starting to see the ripples come. I don't know how well it's going to work in the very end line.
I feel as though as far as Daniel's character and Louis' character, it mainly deals with the fact that in the book those two didn't really have much presence in it, and so the TV, because of the popularity of what they did, they brought to the table in their first outing, the TV writers wanted to expand upon their characters even more and give the actors a lot more to do as far as the glorified cameos. But I feel as though what this this TV season introduces is more of a renewed character that is finally being adapted in the character of Gabrielle. That's a hot mess.
Yeah.
Relationship.
It feels like this season actually perfectly captures their relationship in a lot of sense between Lestat and his mom and Louis. They don't pull punches as far as how messy and toxic. Her transition from who she was and who she is currently in the present is a reflection of who she always was. It was just now she's given more of a permission to be that individual. You're either going to embrace it with open arms, or you're going to recoil from it, much like how individuals are truly seeing it now.
Yeah, I feel as though a lot of case of a lot of the characters like Lestat and Louis, they still struggle with their vampiric nature. Mm-hmm. Even living centuries now going from living, and Armand who still lingers from his traumatic past.
Absolutely cannot stand this character.
I can't. And as far as other new characters concerns, I feel as though it's like they're more introductions, like characters of Marius, Akasha. They introduces these characters because they are definitely going to play major parts in the next season that's at the time of the deal has officially been announced.
And they definitely show promise, and I really do feel like I'm hyped to see how well they adapt that next book and would handle these characters going forward. I just wish that the show, this particular season, gave us more of what the book gave us as far as time to actually truly sit with them and actually get to know them.
Treat every season as if this is its own standalone entity.
If it's going to be your last.
Yeah. And this is very much true with how they handled the overall production of the show. At the beginning of the season, it feels like, this is a nice, good, fresh direction. The stylings is like they take on the aspect of a road show, like a road show from going from coast to coast of the band, the Vampire Lestat names. They go about doing multiple concerts. They handle those concert sequences pretty well.
Yeah, the soundtrack for this show, I had some really big shows, at least for me. I know that everybody who saw The Queen of the Damned didn't like it, and there's plenty of reasons why. However, one of the things I did actually like from it was its soundtrack. So to compare this to that, this is definitely its own thing. This is definitely a unique flavor into and of itself for this show, and that is very reminiscent to how it was in the books. I feel as though Sam's delivery for a lot of the songs are wow. I did not know he had it in him like that.
The nature of them being a grunge, underground, independent rock band, it is definitely feels like it in terms of the show's more smaller scope. Similar to something else, like other series. Unfortunately, this too many of the locations is too claustrophobic.
It's always blocks in between inside sections of one room or two, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's not as open. Even when they tend to go backward, they do flashbacks during different time periods, it feels like only a few sequences or a few scenes that they and it's quickly edited together in different montage sequences, especially during the case where Lestat is basically narrating the events that's unfolding.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been nice to actually just have a couple of episodes that actually just fully live in those different time periods, especially expressing Lestat's origins and different periods of his life, and knowing that where all things are heading, the tone shift should be basically accompanied with a appropriate level of scope going forward.
They basically set up a lot of interesting things that are promised to be delivered with a lot of force and gravity, and I hope they actually are able to deliver it. But at the same time, when we look back, that a lot of what you had or you're promising, you should have also had within this series as well.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day,
I say that the Vampire Lestat season is good, mostly based off of structural reasons.
But I will also say, in my opinion, it's great. I still feel as though this series is still doing incredible heavy lifting for material that I never thought it was going to truly
have another shot at
adapting. Exactly, but I always knew that if it was done right, people will come to it, and it's showing that. I feel as though we're getting more and more individuals to talk about this incredible series, and I hope that they're going to get their due in the war circuit. They may or may not. These days,
at this point, after they do, I hope for Queen of the Damned's sake that if possible that is covered. Either A, they split that book in 2 seasons, or they actually complete it in one long season. But even then, after that, if it's renewed, that means we are officially into unadapted territory.
Yeah, we got what? The Tale of the Body Thief. We have the Memnock the Devil. The quite a few standalone series. That means more extended, side show, side series, or the 2 books that basically are the crossover event with the Mayfair Witches. There's a lot of material still left in the air for the Vampire Chronicles and Mayfair Witches. Though I'm not necessarily watching that show. Hopefully they do something about that, but whatever. How do y'all feel about this season? Are you still with us? Are you along for the journey? Are you excited for Queen of the Damned when it comes? How did y'all feel about the unique twists and turns and the differences between the book and the show? I know I have my opinions on it. Some of it was great. Some of it's like, there.
I'm a TV watcher. I only know of the books that he tells me. But even then, I'm strictly on the perspective of what's shown on screen.
And that's a fair one to go with.
But yeah, my name is Adam.
No, I'm Mary.
Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, comment below for other things that's anime related or in the TV realm. And also follow us on our social media outlets of Threads, Instagram, and Letterboxd for other content we don't necessarily post to this channel. Yeah, let's discuss. And also, this is Seeking Me Productions.
See y'all later.